We are very, very happy to bring you a bit of a tutorial and explanatory guide on how the class and conditions work in Western Cape. And you can find all this information in very neatly summarized versions on the Cape Turf Club website, which is www.capeturfclub.co.za. The class guide gives you a lovely illustration as to where and what races your horses of a particular rating should be running in. Quite easily scan down the graph to see where the horse of your selection is rated. If you've got a 74, you'll be able to see down the graph the very races that the horse is eligible to run in, and all the benefits and bonus incentive schemes that are applicable are all very well placed out as well. So give the website a look, a very self-explanatory class and conditions guide, which we'll run through briefly in this tutorial. There are lots of little things to look out for: where you want to run low-rated maidens, where you've got to run your fillies and mares, just to give you that little bit of an edge to maximize your earnings for your horses over the season. This is how the Cape Racing class guide system works. We have 4 handicap type races, which are named the class events, starting with the highest class, which is Class 2, which is a benchmark 112 handicap. 112 equals to 60 kilos. That is our top weight, which we work the spread off of. Class 3 is a 96 handicap, benchmark 60 kilos. Class 4 is essentially an MR 80 handicap, and the newly devised Class 5 level is a MR 66 handicap. We then complement our class guide racing system with a bunch of Cape Stakes races. The benefit of these Cape Stakes races are that they give us a larger spread to help out the specialist distances, such as your 1,000-meter events, your middle distance and staying events from 1,800 meters upwards. And we obviously have certain population strains at certain levels of the population, and the longer spread helps get more horses into the group. The other added benefit of our stakes races is that the winner is capped to a 6-point penalty, and placed horses can only get £2 as well. On top of that, it's a great race to run your fillies and mares, as they are getting their very, very large sex allowances, which are larger than any other jurisdiction in the country. So those stakes races, we have 4 of them: the A, B, C, and newly introduced D stakes. An A stakes is akin to an old pinnacle type race, which is for the top level horses. And a B stakes is capped for horses with a 96 rating and below. A Cape C stakes has just been adjusted to a race for horses net 78 and below. And then the D stakes is for your lower level horses at a maximum of merit rated 64. So the Cape Stakes races, which are the A, B, C, and now D Stakes races, which were introduced into the new 24-25 season as the lower division has been developed, are longer spread races which are targeted at your more specialist distances, such as 1,000-meter distances and then 1,800 meters and above, where we do seem to have a higher strain on field sizes. We try and get a larger spread using these races, and the big difference here between the stakes and class racing is that fillies and mares do get their sex allowances in stakes races. So we have the highest fillies and mares allowances in the country. Our fillies get 2.5 kilos over the sprint trips. They get 3 kilos in the sprint, mile and mile trips. And then as they get 1,700 meters and above, they get 3.5 kilos allowance. Now this is a massive advantage for fillies racing in the Western Cape, which helps them become a lot more competitive. It also helps us filter in more fillies and mares into these events, which grows the field sizes and gives us a bigger chance of making the races stand up. What tends to happen in these type of races as well is, because their sex allowances are so high, when fillies do win races, they tend to end up running below their ratings, or at least not very high above their ratings, which means they're able to come out of these events after winning with very little, if any, penalties at all. We saw a filly of Adamarcus's called Jury Duty in the last season, who managed to reel off a good couple of C stakes races and only get a kilo penalty each time, and I think she ended up winning 3 in quick succession. It just really helps with the placement of the fillies, It gives them an added option programming-wise as well. They don't have to only look at fillies races. They can also target these mixed events and receive their very, very large sex allowances. So we have two different types of maiden races. We have the open maiden, which is your straight maiden handicap with a few conditions. And we have the old standard maiden plate, which is more a level weights, less allowance depending on your age. And the introduction of the open maiden or maiden handicap has helped Cape Town retain a lot of its horses, and it's given a new lease on life to your less competitive horses, especially in certain times of year where we have a very strong crop of young horses coming through. The beginning of the season as horses build into the classic races and horses come out of winter is particularly strong, where it can become very, very hard to win a maiden and even place in them because you are bumping the next load of group horses going to the classic races. So we put on a maiden handicap called an open maiden, and that just allows horses, once they've had their 3 runs, let's give an example. If a horse has had 3 runs and they run unplaced at all 3 times, that horse may come out with a 60s type of rating. You then have the option of dropping into an open maiden where you carry 53, 54 kilos or whatever the case is, and you have a much better chance of being competitive than carrying 60 kilos in a maiden plate. That is the difference between the two races, and as you will see with many horses, they have 3 or 4 starts in maiden plates, and the moment they drop into the open maidens, they all of a sudden become a lot more competitive and start earning prize money for their owners. The idea behind them is to offer high stakes maidens at certain times of the year that trainers and owners can target their better maidens for. And I think what we've seen over the couple of runnings of these races that we've had is they do tend to attract high quality fields, and the form lines prove very, very worthy of following as horses leave a restricted maiden plate and drop into normal maiden plates. It does tend to be a bit of a class reduction, and it gives an opportunity, as I said, to higher quality horses to bank a nice big winning check when they win their first race. So they are restricted in the form that they are age restricted. We obviously have, we start them when they're 2-year-olds in restricted maiden juvenile plates, and then when they turn 3 on the 1st of August, the restricted maiden plates kick in, which is run for 3-year-olds only. And fillies and colts are both applicable to run in these races, and they are run for 200,000 Rand. So over the years, a tradition in South Africa has developed around maidens and this almost separation of them from the population, where they only run in maiden plates until they win a race and then go into the handicap or plate system, which is quite different to the rest of the world, especially out in the UK, where horses tend to get a rating after a few runs and then completely exit maiden races where they take on winners in handicaps. And we have a very nice situation now in the Western Cape with the introduction of Class 5 and particularly D-Stakes races, where, as I mentioned when comparing the levels of maiden races, you now have the choice of running maidens in a D-Stakes and Class 5 as well. We just had a very good example over the last weekend where a horse called Solar Trip, who was a horse who ran unplaced at 3 starts as a maiden, got his handicap, which was very low, and then ran in a D-Stakes race, managing to run 4th, a career best effort. Now, again, for a horse like Solar Trip to run in a D-Stakes carrying 54 or 55 kilos, that horse in that company has a much better chance of being competitive than running in a maiden plate at level weights with horses that are on their way to the Cape Classic and the Western Province Fillies Championships, etc. So if I was a trainer, I would love, and I would always select putting my weaker maidens with low ratings into either open maidens, Class 5 or D-Stakes races. The added benefit of running in the Class 5 and the D-Stakes races is that that maiden will earn country championship points. And when that horse does eventually win a race in the season, she or he is already eligible for the country championship, where they are open to a whole host of bonuses come the end of the season.